Hello. Nice to have you here, Shaq. Thanks for your time and for sharing great information with the audience today.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, why don't we get started knowing a little bit more about your personal story, how you got into this path on working and supporting people that are struggling with certain mental disorders, probably bipolar disease or disorder in this case. So let us know how your story comes into play.
Sure. So thank you again for having me. So for the viewers, my name is Shaq Shah. My background is actually as an accountant. So I spent the first 15 years of my career at one of the big accounting firms. And, I think for the majority of my early adult years, kind of into my early 30s, mental health is not really something I thought about much. Not really something I paid attention to or kind of empathized with other people on, I would say. But in my kind of mid 30s, I kind of had an episode that led to an eventual diagnosis with bipolar disorder that really through that recovery journey, really gave me the gift of empathy to empathize with others. To obviously understand pieces of my own story, things that had gone wrong and things that I needed to take care of my own health with. I kind of shifted away from just purely being focused on client service within the accounting world. And I actually started up my own accounting advisory practice with a big piece of that being giving me the flexibility to focus on creating Bipolar Empath or founding Bipolar Empath, which, initially was kind of to share pieces of my story, to break down the stigma surrounding mental health and really kind of normalizing the discussion and making others feel like it's okay to potentially discuss their own stories. So I kind of began it with that objective in mind. And then I actually wrote a book, which I have here, Mental Illness, Don't Let It Define You, which really kind of expands on my story for those that might be able to relate or have others in their lives that kind of live with different mental illnesses and want to support them. As well, I went back to school. So I completed a master's in counseling psychology degree. And I'm currently qualifying as a registered psychotherapist because I knew I wanted to give back. I knew I wanted to help people. And although I had a lived experience, I knew I needed some more of the foundational tools to be able to give counseling to people. So today, I kind of balance that with my accounting business and really, want to help support people and still kind of break down the stigma and help normalize other people's stories. So definitely have had some great conversations with people surrounding their own stories or people in their lives with their stories. I'm inspired kind of every day with a lot of the things I hear about how other people have gone through things and are either kind of on their way to recovery or kind of well on their way to recovery. And it's, quite inspirational to see.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing this personal piece, which also helps a lot for others to feel related to it and see. Probably sometimes we don't even pay attention to that part because we're so busy, but we know there's something, right, that we need to address or that it's not letting us feel fully or live fully. And just going back into the book, you mentioned, where is your book available if someone is interested in getting it?
So right now, the distribution channel is Amazon.
Okay.
So again, Mental Illness, Don't Let It Define You. If you search that, it should be the first thing that pops up. It's so far had great conversations surrounding it. And, it's one of those things where sharing that piece of your story can be very personal. But as well as, when you share those stories, I truly believe that you're able to have very deep conversations with other people that might, either not think it's okay to disclose their story, or might not have known that you have a story that kind of they can relate to.
Totally. So, and regarding the mental health struggles, how you find it impacts your identity, relationships, the way you behave, and probably even the goals you have in life might be uh, becoming unclear and probably diluting, right?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because for me, my first episode actually happened at the height of my career, where I was actually 2 weeks away from my partnership interview at the firm I was with, which in theory should have been probably the happiest time of my life or the happiest time of my career. So it was an eye opener that something was happening within me that was preventing me from truly being able to enjoy that moment. And it really kind of forced me to take a deep look at, what was important to me, how I had defined my life up to that point, and my identity surrounding work. And really kind of peeling it back as I got more mentally fit, I realized that there was more that I wanted out of my life than just purely kind of the work and the client aspect of it. Not that that wasn't important to me, but I knew I wanted to make a difference elsewhere. And really from an identity perspective, it's one of those things where I'm sure many that kind of have gone through the professional services route, there's a bit more clarity in terms of my ultimate goal is to be, a C-suite or a partner or whatever a senior position in the company is. And it seems a lot more linear in terms of climbing the corporate ladder versus, when you're on kind of a purpose-driven mission, it's a bit more of a windy road and you don't always know if you're going in the right direction, which is kind of where I'm at today, which, can be scary at times, but at the same time, I kind of know I have to go on this journey to find, my purpose and find my new normal. And, so it's been a great journey and definitely one that I'll keep pushing forward through,
Yeah, and that's amazing to know, going through it and sharing it and being able to show the empathy, as you said. It's something that makes a great change, because when you go through like mental issues, it's hard sometimes even to identify them. So is there something specific that I, as a listener, can pay attention to, or know what are some of the signs?
Yeah, I think there's a very famous book called The Body Keeps Score. And I think the mind-body connection cannot be underestimated, how powerful that is. And a lot of times, when you're working at full tilt and really kind of working at full steam, your body sends signals to you and to your mind that you should really be paying attention to. For example, if you feel fatigued, or you sleep for longer periods of time than you're used to, if you're feeling muscle aches, if you're not able to get as great a workout or even a workout in like you normally would, like these are all kind of signs that something might be going on, and really listening to that mind body connection in whatever way you are able to do that. Like for me, for example, I discovered yoga, which has helped me with that connection and understanding it. I know other people use other things like going for walks in nature or hiking or, whatever your, your tool is. But I think really paying attention to that can help detect early on if something's going on. Versus in my scenario, it really wasn't until I kind of crashed and had that episode that I was able to pick myself back up. Versus today, I'm a lot better at being able to say, okay, I'm going down a path where I might be stressed or need some personal time or some relaxation time. And I'm a lot better at being able to identify that than I was, 8 or 9 years ago when I was having my episodes with bipolar.
So with that in mind, if I have a loved one who might be going through a specific disorder, I feel having a hard time, how is the best way to approach or engage them and see how they can get some maybe external support? Like you say, you have your network, your community, and that's probably a best way to show them there's others that share a specific situation like them.
Yeah, I think it starts with compassion, right? I think in many ways there isn't a one size fits all approach. There's people that just need you to be there in case they need to vent or need someone to kind of catch them when they fall and lift them up. There's people that need more guided advice, that seek it, that want you to provide tools, whether it's therapy or breathing techniques or whatever tools you introduce to them. There's people like that, and then there's people that will resist it, right? There's people that will get frustrated, even though they know you're well-intentioned and wanting to help them. They can get frustrated that you could be overbearing on them. And it's not easy for loved ones because obviously loved ones want you to get better. I think sometimes it's hard to define what getting better means. Like, does getting better mean you should go back to being how you were before you went through an adversity or a crisis? Does it mean there's a new normal for you that everyone needs to adapt to? And that journey is not only for the person kind of going through the mental health issue, but it's also the family and the friends that are supporting them to say, how can we support them? But we need to understand that their new normal might be different than what we've known them as, which could be a very difficult process for people to absorb.
Totally. And then there's this, like, your close circle, the ones that are your family, your friends, but also how does it trickle down to workplaces, how the culture can be transformed, or what has been your experience from a workplace standpoint?
Yeah, I think from a workplace standpoint, it can be quite scary, right? Like, I think a lot of people struggle with, will they be judged? Will they be punished for disclosing something that may be viewed as them not being able to then perform the duties of their job, to be as productive as they were before? And I've heard stories of people that have been punished or reprimanded for disclosure of that nature. But then I think there's circumstances where you have examples of organizations that do support employees through tough times and getting them back on their feet. And so I don't think it's fair to just attack employers and say they're all bad and they're all doing bad things. But the one thing I would say to employees is, if you're going through something that is impacting your ability to do your job and how you're doing it, don't be afraid to ask and take the time off that you need. Like for me, for example, I took 3 months off with my first leave of absence, but if I reflect on it, given the severity of everything that was happening and me not really understanding what was happening to me, I really probably should have taken a year off to really process that, to go through it, to understand what I needed for myself, versus, forcing myself back up to work after 3 months was not really productive, because then I found myself back on another leave of absence 9 months later. And you're kind of in a position now where you've gone back to work and maybe not produced how you want to produce, and now your anxiety is even heightened because you're like, now I'm on a second leave of absence coming back. How are people going to feel about me? How are they going to judge me? And so my advice would be, I know it's hard, but take the time off that you need to.
Yeah, and at the end, it's better as well for the place you work, right? Because then you're going to come back and you're going to be focused. You'll be better overall rather than just going through it and storming and not performing well. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great advice as well. And I was looking obviously beforehand we had our podcast session, your website, all the support in place. Maybe if you can expand a bit on the tools, the advice you have, how you are creating this community. It feels like the sense of community, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's been a big piece of how I've wanted to establish everything, was providing a community for people where, I share pieces of my story, blog posts surrounding various mental health topics. Today, I actually just released kind of a feelings thermometer, kind of to assess kind of where you are on the stress scale and where your emotions might be lying. So I think that's a useful tool for people to use to really understand it and understand themselves. I'll be updating the website also to include my therapy services. Right now I'm working through another agency where I provide therapy. So if anyone has questions surrounding that, there's a contact me section on my website that they can reach out to me on. And, it's really just building a sense of community. I recently launched a YouTube channel where I launched a couple interviews that I did with both my support network, because oftentimes you don't hear from the people support networks that are going through mental health crisis. So I launched that with 3 people close to me and what they experienced through my episodes, as well as a discussion with someone else that was with bipolar and talking through issues that we both experience and face. So that's exciting. And yeah, just continuing to try to be creative and think of different ways to spread the message and continue to break down the stigma.
And thinking about mental health, men versus women, do you feel it's harder for men to really um, ask for help or just raise their concerns? What have you found?
Yeah, I think in a generalized scenario, yes. I mean, obviously everyone's unique and everyone's individual. One of the reasons I have been so intentional about sharing my story and going into psychotherapy has been because I feel like men can struggle with seeking support and asking for help. Oftentimes I think in a family patriarchy, a man is often looked to be a protector and a provider for a family. And I think, a lot of men view it as, if they show that weakness, it could scare people in their life and really scare and really put that pressure on them not to fall down and feel things that might prevent them from being able to be that protector and that provider for their families. So I think, there are certain issues that men have that they might be ashamed of as well. I think we often hear the term like toxic masculinity in society, for example, but there's many layers to that, right? It's not that everyone that has toxic viewpoints or masculine viewpoints is a bad person, right? And it's how do you work through some of those viewpoints that might be negative in your life and might be causing some issues for you and those around you. How do you work through that in a safe environment, in a non-judgmental environment, right? So I think a lot of times with men, it is having that safe space and really to work through those issues without judgment. And I think, I think both men and women to the extent that you can feel comfortable and feel safe in a therapeutic environment, you can make a lot of headway, right? Like there's a lot of things that can come from childhood traumas that can come from even adult traumas or young adolescent issues. And when you kind of work through all of that, it's amazing the progress they can make and really the changes that they can impact in their lives. So I think, I would recommend it to anyone that struggles with being able to open up to friends and family and really work through things. I think can be a huge benefit to therapy and having that third party objective kind of viewpoint in the room when you're working through your issues.
Definitely. And well, just to probably wrap it up with your website and the community you're working and creating, I did find a lot of material. You have a newsletter going on, there's
Yeah.
blogs in place, and you can elaborate any of those. There's a tool to just have a gauge, right? Like how you're feeling, and if that's a flag or a red alert to take action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that tool, I think, literally launched today. So yeah, good timing on it that it came out. But I think there's definitely, like, anyone that is interested in the content, like I write a monthly newsletter that they can subscribe to. And yeah, the goal is to share content that is relevant. An article I'm working on right now is dating with bipolar or dating someone with bipolar. I think, there's a lot of interesting kind of nuances in that. Obviously, everyone's unique, everyone's different, but there's definitely things to consider, and I'm hoping that article kind of resonates with some people.
Yes, that's great. Thanks for providing all that material to support others that are going through this situation.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
And one other topic that we have at hand to work today to discuss is how you're leveraging technology. Either it can be for your patient support, for their experience, or personally on like the business side of things, how you're working with it to provide a better support or care.
Yeah. So one thing that I'll be start using, not currently using, but with therapy sessions, you document your session notes within whatever system you're using, and oftentimes that can be a very manual process in terms of recapping what was discussed in session and recapping it in notes format. There's a lot of AI tools now, including the system I use, that are starting to incorporate AI into, with the permission of the client, obviously, kind of listening in on the conversation from an AI perspective and summarizing the notes in a manner that meets the standards and protects the client's confidentiality. So I'm excited to kind of tinker with that and see how that can maybe make that process more efficient, as well as get some good quality notes out of it as well. Another way I've used it is with Chat GPT, and I mean, you could use a lot of the other ones too. One of the things when I was thinking from a business perspective was, building a speaker profile and getting benchmarks around what to charge for different speaking engagements and what that would look like. And it's amazing the information that can be pulled from different kind of open sources, and really giving me a feel for, okay, this can be my pricing strategy, and this is what I can look to actually get there, as well as marketing my book, for example, kind of getting a blueprint for, here's a system that you can use to market the book, the ads you can run, those sorts of things. And so it's been interesting to get the insights from AI to leverage what's out there on the World Wide Web and really compile that information without having to, Google search and look it up manually.
Yeah, your response and the speed on how you can provide probably a plan or this notes, as you mentioned, will help everyone to streamline things, and obviously for you as well to free some time and help others. So
Yeah.
that's great. Good to know you are using it to your advantage and for a better patient experience or support.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Is there anything else we're missing that you want to share with our listeners? I think we got into the most important things and how to raise awareness, the tools that are in place, how you're supporting others, the community you're building, and then we'll be sharing under all the handles like for social media links to the specific things that can pinpoint the audience to you and to your community.
Yeah, I think what I would leave the listeners to this podcast with is, for those of you that might be struggling with your own mental health or supporting someone that's struggling with their mental health, know that no matter how desperate or uncertain things might seem at the current moment, and hopeless, to a certain degree, know that you are enough and that your life matters. Yesterday was World Suicide Prevention Day, and just know that the world is a better place with you in it. Know that there are people that care about you, people that love you, people that want to help support you, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone and reach out. In Canada, here we have the suicide prevention helpline at 988. And for anyone listening outside of the country, you can look up your local numbers, but just know that you're enough. And I believe that if I could do it, you could do it, and you can get better.
Great way to conclude, and thanks for supporting and for sharing these words of strength that at difficult times they do matter a lot.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shaq. A pleasure having you as a host, and well, stay tuned for more.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.